3 games to go in this 2023 NFL regular season. And even with a brutal loss last Saturday against the Cincinnati Bengals, the Minnesota Vikings find themselves still holding on to the 6th seed in the NFC. You look at the teams behind them, the Rams are also at 7-7. They currently hold the final wild card spot. The Saints, outside looking in, they're also 7-7. The Seattle Seahawks, they're 6-7. We'll see how they do tonight on Monday Night Football. It's still going to be a tight race. Technically, the NFC North title is still up for grabs if and only if the Vikings win out and the Lions lose out. But with 3 games left, especially with the 5th seed going to whoever comes in second place in the NFC East, realistically speaking, you're looking at either, if you're the Vikings, the 6th or the 7th seed. But it's crunch time. No more time for wishy-washiness. I talked about how I didn't think that KOC had the stones to make the recent promotions that he did last week, with Jaren Hall at QB2 and Jordan Addison being the wide receiver 2 officially for this team, even with a healthy Justin Jefferson on the field. That's good stuff right there. But now, what do you do if you're KOC? We know what you should do, but what do you do if you're Kevin O'Connell? Alexander Mattison, if he's going to be healthy for this upcoming game against the Detroit Lions, Ty Chandler, he got the start against the Bengals, got over 100 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown. The only Vikings player to get over 100 yards or more this season. Alexander Mattison, all the starts that he's had this year, couldn't get it done. We know who the starter should be, Ty Chandler. Are you going to go back to the status quo, or are you going to continue where you left off in recent promotions with your personnel? And also, I saw this report by Jeremy Fowler via Kevin Seifert, Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, in which case he says that Nick Mullens is expected to start next week against the Lions. And if that is the case, we still need to hear the official word from KOC himself to confirm, but if that is the case, then you're actually going backwards compared to what you did last week. This barrier that's been created for Dobbs and Mullens only because of experience, not because of what they do on the field, solely because of experience. This barrier that's been created, so that's apparently unbreakable for a guy like Jaren Hall. We're trying to secure a playoff spot. We don't have time to figure out what this 5th round rookie quarterback is capable of. That second drive he had against the Falcons was BS. We don't have time for that. Dobbs and Mullens, they give this team the best chance to win and make it into the postseason, solely off of experience. Well, I'll tell you something right now. That experience that everybody's been hooting and hollering about the last 4 games has resulted in a 1-3 record. Also, those 2 quarterbacks in that time frame combined for 5 touchdowns and 8 turnovers. And we shouldn't be shocked by this. You could see it coming a mile away. Jaren Hall is the lunch meat that is 2 or 3 days past the expiration date, but it's been in the fridge the entire time. Maybe you're tempting fate, but there's perhaps a chance that you're going to be just fine. It could go either way, sure. Whereas Dobbs and Mullens, they are cheeseburgers that have been sitting at room temperature the last 48 hours. There's nothing to think about here. If you eat these burgers, you will get sick. And then you eat it and have the audacity to be surprised when you're carted off in a stretcher into an ambulance. You're vomiting all over the place and you end up in the ER. If Fowler is correct, then it tells me you're not a serious team. You're either going to barely get into the playoffs because the rest of the NFC also, they are not serious. Whereas losing to the Bengals, as far as the Vikings losing to the Bengals, presented opportunities for Green Bay and Atlanta. They both lost. We'll see what Seattle does tonight. But it tells me you're not a serious team. You'll either barely scratch into the playoffs or you'll miss it entirely. And at the end of the season, we're not going to have any more, this is why we are doing this, this is why we're not doing that. At the end of the year, all we have are the results. And we're going to sit back and say, okay, did you do enough to give this team the best chance to win and make it into the postseason and maybe win a playoff game? Did you do that? Did you maximize the potential of this team? Injuries suck, sure. But did you do enough? And it's not going to be on hindsight. It's going to be based off of the stuff that we're asking right now, that we've been asking this entire season. This isn't hard, bro. Jaren Hall should be the starter the rest of the way.